Five9, contact center. Contact center in the cloud. It's SaaS. Who has sold or knows about Five9? By raise of hand. Okay, a couple of people. Good. So I'm glad most of you have not. Because I'm going to start a little bit at Contact Center 101 kind of stuff. And if I'm repeating stuff that you already know, I apologize if that's redundant. Although we like redundancy, right, in our crowd. So we're all from the Department of Redundancy Department. But, okay, who can tell me what a contact center is for the rest of the group? What is a contact center by definition? No wrong answer. Centralized software. Pardon? Unified communications. Okay. Yes, yes, kind of no, maybe. Okay. So most people, when they think contact center, they think sea of cubes, right? Really kind of gray environment. Everyone's like, I hate my job. I'm calling out. It's telemarketing, all that, right? And that is a contact center. But it's much more than that. So a 3-person IT group is a contact center. A 20-person marketing group who's taking calls for customer sat surveys would be a contact center. In an insurance environment, someone who's doing open enrollment, something like that, that's a contact center. So it's both inbound and outbound phone calls, emails, chats, SMS, anything that needs to be managed on, reported, any kind of communication in or out with your customers or in a B2C or B2B environment. Make sense? So it's much, broaden your scope, broaden the definition of what most people normally think of as a contact center. So Five9, that's what we are, that's what we do really good, we're the best at it. Not afraid to tell you that, because we are. I mean, that's what the experts will tell you. But what we are not, we're not a CRM. Don't get confused with that. We work with, we integrate with other databases. All the CRMs in the world, we're CRM agnostic, that's fantastic, but we're not a CRM. We're also, on the other side, not a PBX. Don't try to be. We're a contact center software platform that works with both. Okay? Fair enough? My intention today is to tell you who is Five9, why you care about who Five9 is, and how to make money with Five9. Beyond that, the rest is just kind of gravy, right? Does anybody care about more than that here? And are there other things that I should be touching on? Yes? No? Okay. So let's jump right into who we are. All right, here's the overview of Five9. I like to call this the chest-thumping slide because everyone likes to put up how wonderful they are, and we're no different. So this is how amazing Five9 is. We've been in business for about 15 years. We've got more customers than anybody, about just over 2,000. We do more interactions than anybody in our space, right? Contact center is a cloud, or contact center in the cloud, and we've got about 40%. Actually, it's north of that, but we put this up to be conservative during presentations. 40% year-over-year enterprise customer growth. That's pretty awesome. Why do you care? Because these guys really care. Does anybody in here not know who Gartner is? No one's raising their hand. Gartner comes out with this magic quadrant every year, and for the contact center space, they basically say that Five9 is the leader in that space with the highest ability to execute. So here it is. We're pretty transparent, and we put it up there and we say, this is Gartner's stuff, not us. Here's all the players in the contact center space, in the cloud. So we tell you, hey, here's where we compete with, and here's where we are, up and to the right. That's fantastic. And Gartner says, right here, highest ability to execute. So translate that into a partnership scenario. You can have confidence that our stuff, our software, our platform is going to do what we promise it's going to do to your customers. There is nothing worse than being in a situation where you're putting your credibility on the line with your customers and bringing us in and helping you sell contact center. And by the way, we do all the work to do that. And there's nothing worse than having a vendor come in and make these promises, and then all of a sudden implementation comes up and you can't implement. Or you can't integrate the way that you were promised. Or there's downtime, or there's latency, or what have you. Because then you look dumb for bringing us in. We want to make you look like rock stars. And that's what Gartner is telling us, that we're going to make you look really good. Questions?
Yeah, doesn't Five9 pay Gartner to rate them?
Yeah, everybody does. Everybody up here. Everything's pay to play. We're pay to play today.
Yeah.
I'm paying to be here. That lunch, you're welcome. It's business. And you know what? We'll go out and we'll close deals for you, and you'll do about that much work, and we'll pay you for the pleasure of closing that deal.
I get it.
Okay. Here's the market. There's a bunch of agents around the world, just a ton. And it's estimated about 22 billion. It's estimated that the cloud penetration has about 10% of all of those agents. Does anybody know where all those other agents are? I'm hearing whispers. Speak up. I'm getting old. Old premise-based equipment. The Avayas of the world, the Ciscos of the world, the Nortels, Genesis, all that older stuff from before. And mostly it's from Avaya, from the days, and kind of a little bit more Cisco. But a lot of folks are moving, a lot of corporations are moving off of that premise-based equipment and into the cloud. And that's where you see all those players were that I showed on the previous slide, the Gartner slide, all those cloud players. That's where they come from. Huge market opportunity. So 10% penetrated. Of that 10%, Five9 has just over 14% of that penetration. And again, here are all of our competitors. And you can see probably our biggest competitors right there at about 6 to 7%, and we're at 14. That's in contact. Green is 8x8. Yeah, and 8x8 is an interesting story. I have friends that work at 8x8, great company. If I had extra money, I'd buy stock in 8x8, frankly. But they're a little bit different from us, from the InContacts and the Five9s of the world, because they're mostly a PBX company that does some contact center functionality, and we are core contact center functionality. So, but make no mistake, they have a great spot. They have a niche. We're moving forward. There we go. Here's where we're having success. Here are the verticals, because everybody says, if I'm looking at my customers, where do you guys play really well? And you can see here's kind of our NASCAR slide of logos. We do really well in banking and insurance and just financial services in general. I don't know if you recognize any of these folks here. We do really well in healthcare and technology. Consumer, why do you think we do so well in consumer? Any ideas?
Bigger market.
Pardon?
Bigger market.
That's a good answer, but there's a better one. Think of the nature of the cloud. Online shopping, okay. What happens at Christmas time? It blows up, doesn't it? So there's a scalability issue there. There's a seasonality issue there. Contact center in the cloud does really well in those environments. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of these cloud vendors like Five9 is pulling from the old premise vendors. If you have, let's say, an old premise company, I won't mention any today, but let's say you have a business that has 300 contact center agents during the year, kind of average. And then around Christmas time, or let's say it's Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, or one of those times when things really spike, or even open enrollment, like I mentioned earlier. If it spikes up to, say, 1,000 agents, if you have a premise equipment, you have to have 1,000 pieces available, 1,000 seats available. Does that make sense? That's a lot of blinking lights, right? It's a lot of hardware. And you have to pay for that even when you're using 300 month by month. So the beautiful thing about contact center in the cloud, scale up, scale down, it's pay as you use. And of course, BPO, that's a huge one for us, so if you have BPO customers. Questions? Can I move on? All right, I'm trying to go fast. So slow me down if I need to. Here's from a 30,000-foot view what we are and what we do at Five9. So here we are in the middle. Here's pretend this is our platform in the cloud. See our nice cloud here. Customer calls in. Usually they'll call in on an 800 number that your customers have provided or perhaps purchased from you, right? And they'll call in and they'll either be on the phone. Most of the time it's on the phone, right? 70-80% of the time. But sometimes they'll chat or they'll email or whatever. We kind of don't care how they get to us because we'll pick up any one of those channels and we'll pick it up into the cloud, right? And we'll do all of the intelligence in the cloud. So this is where the ACD and the IVR and the computer integration lives. Does anybody know what those terms mean, those acronyms? What's an ACD?
Automated call distribution.
Yeah, so that's the routing engine, right? What's an IVR?
Interactive voice responder.
And what does that do? Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, check my balance, all that stuff. So that's where the intelligence happens, and then that call gets routed directly to wherever the agent is, whether they're on site whether they're outsourced to a BPO, whether they're at home, it doesn't really matter. We just need to know where to point that call. So we do all of the intelligence here. The phone on this side could even be kind of a dumb headset if you wanted it to be. And in fact, a lot of our customers don't even use hard phones anymore. They go to soft phones in their contact center environments. Now the business users, they'll keep their hard phones. But in the contact center environment, they'll use soft phones a lot of times. Do I see a question? Oh, you're waving. How you doing?
Do you provide the endpoints as well?
Pardon me?
Do you provide the endpoints as well?
Or yes, or mostly it's wherever we need to go, right? So the customer, almost every customer has that in place, or you've got it in place with them. We just need to come in and understand what the environment is and what makes sense for the customer and for what you've sold, right? So it's a kind of a collaborative situation. And I'll get into how we do that, how we sell together in a moment.
But are you replacing that solution, or are you aligning with it?
When you say that solution, what do you mean? Give me an example.
I already have it.
Yeah, no, we'll align with them.
So you're not-
But if let's say they have a soft phone, let's say they choose to go to a soft phone, which again, it's a best practice. So let's say they, and don't confuse business users with contact center users, right? So we're talking contact center agents. Oftentimes they don't need that solution, they just need a soft phone because that is the solution,
So you're
right?
layering on top of it.
We'll layer on top. Good, excellent way to say it, layer on top. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Oh, and I should mention, we also integrate with other third parties. So if you workforce management, by the way, we'll sell that, or we will integrate with other folks who have it in place, right? And we have certain, we have a bunch of offerings regarding WFM, WFO, QM, things like that. And we'll also, you can't really see down here, but we'll integrate with, as I mentioned in the very beginning, other CRM applications and databases. Pretty much anything that you can consume web services, web enabled, we're pretty good there. Okay? Did I see a question?
Yes, so Mark, you're getting, I guess you'll get into like the type of companies that you're winning and what you're, I don't know if you have.
Oh my gosh. I said earlier it was pay to play. All right, so before I get to that, here's who we integrate with. You probably recognize a lot of these folks, CRMs, integrators, you probably don't care about as much for this group, but other technology folks, and hey, who's these guys down here? So we work with a lot of folks. We consider ourselves fairly agnostic, right? But speaking of companies, oh, where is it? Let me just skip to it. Come on. Come on, did I pass it? Maybe I passed it.
Yeah, you showed the slide, like,
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Let's go back.
what I meant was like, how are you winning them? You know, it's like how people are buying your service.
Here we go. So here are the companies. Here are the folks that we replaced. I think I skipped this slide.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry about that. So here's the technologies. These are the technologies that we put into the place. And these are the, if you can see through the gray, the logos from the previous slide that are now Five9 customers. So I'm sorry, your question is, how did we do that?
No, I guess just like opportunities that you're finding, how are you, having them buy your service? Like, what are some key reasons that they're buying Five9? Like,
All right.
how are you getting people to buy it?
That is a good question. I'm gonna skip ahead to some things here then.
Let me follow up on that question. Like the company that replaced InContact.
Yeah.
Why did they replace InContact for Five9?
So, without airing dirty laundry from competitors,
It's okay. We don't mind.
I worked at InContact for several years, and I have good friends who work at InContact today. Before I was a channel guy at Five9, I was a sales guy at Five9. And by the way, there's no conflict for our direct sales force, whether they find a deal, let's say it's XYZ company, or you bring them XYZ company, they get paid the same commission, so it's in their best interest to have you as a partner involved because of your credibility, shortens the sales cycle, etc. But I digress. So I had a partner who brought me into a deal. It was about 105 seats, and it was in the Midwest, and they were having issues with InContact because InContact was having integration issues with this customer. Took them over a year, and they still couldn't get everything to play nice in the sandbox. And so that's what was going on there. Again, there are plenty of InContact customers who seem to integrate nicely, but in this situation, that wasn't the case, okay? So I don't want to bash on other folks. We went in there, we said, let's show you how we can integrate. Oh, and let's replace this over here. Let's take kind of a macro perspective of your business. from a contact center perspective, and let's see what we can make better and optimize. They love the idea. We sold the deal. It ended up being, and we added workforce management to the deal. It ended up being about $500,000 a year. So you can do the math. 500,000 times your commission percentage for that partner.
So how long did it take for you to?
How long did it take to implement it?
Is there a major change?
It took us about 4 months. I take that back, closer to 5, because there's always stuff that happens on the customer side where they're like, it wasn't it wasn't any roadblocks on our side, but stuff happens where vacations
Was
and
this
et
CRM,
cetera.
NetSuite, or Salesforce?
Neither,
Oh, really?
neither.
Which one was it?
Starts with an O.
Or Oracle?
Yes, I could probably just tell you that.
Buyout there, but who wants Cisco? Is there a reason? Does Cisco have their own contact center?
Cisco has an offering. I don't. Cisco and Avaya have been trying to get into the space for years, as you're probably familiar. It's like being an airplane manufacturer trying to build trains. It's kind of two different things, this premise world and this cloud world. And so they have an offering, and they have other third parties who are trying to take Cisco into the cloud. We don't see them very often. We integrate. We have a great partner out of Chicago who's an integrator that we work with other partners like yourselves. They're called Netrix. Netrix does fantastic with Cisco in the cloud, and we work with them on a lot of deals like that. So it's not an issue for us to integrate. We just don't run into them a lot. That's all.
I just wanted to comment that one of the beauties of Five9 is that it's elastic. So, as you said, the seasonal type environment.
Yeah.
Where Christmas time, traffic builds up, whereas you buy a premise-based system, you have to buy seats for what your high point is.
Exactly.
Paying for what you use.
Exactly, and so what happens in the old premise world, you're going on capital expenditure model, right? And this moves it to an operating cost model where it's paying monthly, and managers of businesses, C-level suite, love that because it translates right to the bottom line. So the question was, let me move up here. The question was, basically, how do we spot opportunities, or what are we looking for? So if you're looking for your customers, just look at your existing book of business. And I'm not kidding, every time we get together and we talk with folks like yourselves, I walk away with a handful of deals, because there are deals on the table right now today that you're just not thinking about them.
Yeah, I just quoted one for 10 seats, and I'll just say the provider with Call Tower, and Call Tower uses Five9's backbone.
Exactly.
Contact center. So what we did was we quoted it through Call Tower, but then I also went directly to Five9 and quoted those 10 seats to see what that would look like directly with Five9, because the customer wanted to work direct with Five9, and the partner thought it would be better. In other words, why work with a third party pushing your backbone when they can work directly with you? But I will say that it was more expensive to go to you direct, and there's a premium to pay for working with Five9 direct. Right? So, in other words, you're getting like the Cadillac versus the half of the.
No, let me clarify that. So it depends on which rep you were talking to quote that deal. So with Call Tower is a reseller of Five9. And we have folks who are referral folks like yourselves, right, who refer business to us by definition. And we have folks who resell Five9, and we give them basically a buy rate, essentially, and then they put their margin on top of it and resell. That's Call Tower, and there are others out there who do that. If you go in the way that we will work together, if you come to me and say, hey, I have this deal and I want to get a quote, etc., I introduce you to one of my salespeople, an enterprise sales rep or someone who's in-house, depending on the size of the deal. That size deal would have gone in-house to our corporate team. And they have certain margins that they can play with, and it's as competitive, if not more or less, than what Call Tower would offer.
Does that replace the Call Tower quote completely, or do I still have to look for another IP solution to support?
Say it again, I couldn't hear.
So does that, in that case, does that replace the part I was confused about, because the partner kind of ran that deal, so I was watching on the back end and learning.
Mhm.
So does that replace the Call Tower solution altogether with going to Five9 Direct, or does he still have to buy
No.
endpoints and PSTNs for that client? That's the part I'm confused about.
Yeah, so the answer is yes and no. Is what Call Tower or any of our resellers provide is Five9. It's Five9 with all the bells and whistles, whatever a customer needs. So it's not any better, it's not any worse, But when it comes to endpoints and connectivity issues, if you're working with call tower, certainly call tower is going to want something in there that's specific to call tower for their connectivity portion, right? For the telephony piece. If you're working with Five9, we care a little bit less about that because we want to be agnostic from that percentage.
Still an agnostic to the ESPN endpoints you layer on top of all this.
Yeah, now, so we're a carrier, and a lot of folks out there are carriers. I don't go out and there and say, hey, we're a carrier and try and compete with other carriers, right? Just like AirSpring said, hey, we've got this contact center thing, but,
So I would
you know,
just deleted the contact center line items from the call tower and sold that way.
you could have.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
you could have.
working on it.
And
I'm
so,
trying to figure out what his logic and thinking was, and now I understand.
so moral of the story is, if you have someone who resells Five9 into a deal, look at it both ways.
Right, which is what we did.
Yeah, so that was a best practice for you. But if you don't, we'll give you the best price that we can give you, right? And it'll be, you know, and as far as telephony and connectivity issues and all of that, we'll together sit down and look, okay, what do you have in place today? What does the customer really need? Maybe we would recommend, let's go from MPLS over here to something else, right? And et cetera. So all the variables. And we have subject matter experts that we bring in, so you have all the resources at Five9 to be able to do that. Okay? Okay, so going back to, we started this question like 10 minutes ago. How do I identify a deal, or what do I look for? Here's what you look for. Think of your existing book of business. Again, this isn't like look way out of the box and go and hunt new business. Just think of your customers today. Customers who have single or multiple locations, think about, again, the nature of the cloud. You're not restricted to a prem environment. You can go anywhere, right? So wherever those agents happen to be. Or for that matter, customers who maybe have acquired other companies and they have disparate technologies, disparate locations, et cetera. I love the layer on top analogy. We can make it all work together, right? And you could have different vendors, different technologies. Exactly, thank you. So, and along those lines, that makes them difficult to administer, right? So, or if they just have other administration issues. If it's aging or overdue, again, talked about the premise situation. A lot of those are looking for refresh, right? If they want to use the latest, a lot of C-level executives have initiatives to go to the cloud. And they're looking for, hey, give me a quote on what I'm doing today. Give me a cloud player, et cetera. And we come into the mix. And we often surprise customers by what we can actually do and what we have to offer from a price and return on investment perspective. If their current platform has issues, if they're looking for disaster recovery, et cetera. And here's big, what we talked about earlier, seasonal peaks. If they need to get up to speed quickly for rapid deployments, I mentioned that one was 4 or 5 months. Figure on average, 90 days, 4 months-ish, depending on what's going on to implement. If they're in a high growth mode, again, that goes back to kind of the acquisition idea. So, or if they have budgetary or cost concerns, again, it comes back to you're paying for what you're using. Okay?
Are there other competitors you're displacing on a regular basis? Or
Yeah. I think Five9, as well as a lot of players in cloud space, are displacing a lot of Avaya. It's just the nature of the industry today. We see other players who are in the cloud space we're replacing, the InContacts of the world, the i3s of the worlds, sometimes the old Live Ops, which is now Serenova, but we don't see them as much. They just didn't have as big a footprint. But yeah, we'll see a lot of that.
in your sweet spot in regards to where you guys are the most competitive? Is that 100 seats? Or?
I have a slide on that somewhere. Oh, there we go. It says 300 to 800. I'll tell you, most of the time I'm seeing about 100-seat deals, give or take. But if you've got a 10-seat deal like was brought up earlier, let's go get it. Because we're so scalable, it doesn't really matter. Another differentiator, we're inbound, outbound, and blended. Not everybody is that way. We do awesome at outbound. Our dialer is second to none. And there are some folks who do pretty good at inbound, but we do them both. Again, we talked about the seasonal peaks, we talked about the multiple locations, et cetera. So, any other questions along that?
How do you fill out the usage? So for example, let's say an outbound call center, predictive dialing, I presume
Yeah, yeah, and to the 6 seconds, right? But we have, pardon? Yeah, but we have a rate card, and we'll show it to you, and you get paid on that usage.
Sure, okay.
However, let me give you a caveat. If we have to together go into a deep discount mode because the customer's like, I've got this existing contract and we want to replace it, right? And we have to lower that, you get paid less.
Right.
So basic,
Toll-free, I presume?
pardon me?
Same thing on toll-free?
Yeah, yeah, all usage, all usage. So you're getting paid on software, you're getting paid on usage, and you're getting paid on third-party applications. So the usage in the third-party applications is usually a little bit less than the software, because that's, our bread and butter.
Sure.
Okay, fair enough? Let's figure out what I haven't covered here. Let me go back up a little bit. Oh, here we go. This is important to you, I would think. A couple years ago, our average deal was about $350. This is annualized contract value. Last year was about $450. This year it's higher than that. I mentioned the one that I sold last year was just north of $500. That's pretty standard. That was a 105-seat deal, okay? But this gives you an idea of what we're talking about as far as dollars. So, tell me your name?
Brendan.
Brendan, what's your average sale today? And I know you're selling a bunch of stuff probably, but what's your average monthly recurring?
I mean, yeah, we've been doing a lot of transactional stuff on the, but we just had you in an account before. It's about 30 seats, 35 seats.
Okay. So I'm not talking contact center, I'm talking in general.
Oh, in general.
Just your whole business. You sell a deal,
Per site,
average
$800 to $1,000.
$800 to $1,000 a month.
Yep.
Okay. How much? Okay. How much? Oh, you're TCG. How much are you averaging, would you say? Is anybody making north of, say, a grand or $2,000 a month on average on a deal? Okay, there's one. Good. You're an outlier. Do what he's doing. So the reason I bring that up is because an average deal for us is about right here, right? And here's your monthly. And again, do the math. I don't care. I don't want to know what your commission percentage is with TCG. But you can do the math on what that'll make you a month. One of my sales guys who's here locally, his name is Michael Sugg, is in a deal right now today that, I see some nods, some folks know Sugg. He's in a deal right now today with a TCG partner who brought us into a deal. It's going to be about 150 seats. He figures it's about 20 grand-ish a month after discounting and all of that. So that's pretty average.
So does the 185 include usage, or usage is?
No, that does not include it. So yeah, this 185, that's after other stuff is added on, right? They say, for example, I want some WFM, or I want something else, and so you're starting at here's your base price, and then here's this added on, here's that added on, and by the end of the day, after the customer has added on a few different things, that's about what we're averaging.
What's WFM?
Oh, workforce management.
Can you give an
Calabrio, Verint, Nice, all those
Can you
kind
give
of.
an example of your workforce management product? Because you sell a product and you integrate with others. So what is your
So
product do?
when I say we sell a product, we resell a product.
Oh.
So the ones that I just mentioned, Nice, Verint, Calabrio, the leaders in the industry,
So you sell all of those?
we'll white label them.
Like Call Tower white labels 500?
Exactly. So the deal that I mentioned earlier, I brought Calabrio into that deal, and we sold the customer Calabrio, but it was all on Five9 paper.
And now, can you tell what workforce management does? Because I have no idea.
Yeah. So if you have a whole bunch, usually it's in larger contact centers, like let's say 100 agents or more, right? And that's a beast to manage. All of those people. You have all of these scheduling issues. You want to make sure that calls are being dispositioned correctly. You want to make sure that there's no agents aren't off screwing around, that they're actually working when they need to be working. That workforce management, think of workforce management. It manages those folks. So it helps them with all of the issues. Hey, I need time off on this day, let's trade that day, and all of that management nightmare. And then it reports on all that, and it integrates with Five9 as well as whatever database they might have in place. Let's say they've got Salesforce in place, for example. So the whole thing, if you're a manager, you can look at that whole thing and say, I have these agents over here who are just killing it, doing great, and they're spending this much time on the phone and answering these many questions. And I have these agents over here who are spending this much time, and these agents who look like they're spending this much time, but they're not. And workforce management will tell them stuff like that.
Looking at this stuff in Salesforce, because Salesforce, when you have Salesforce,
Yeah.
it wants you to look at their screen 90% of the time or more.
Yeah. So let's use Salesforce as an example because that's probably the most common. So that's the database that most folks will use and in an enterprise environment. And that's the agent is used to looking at that Salesforce record. So if you can picture a Salesforce record in your mind, on the side of the Salesforce record, you'll see a Five9 soft phone. And it looks like it's part of the Salesforce record. The agent would never know the difference. And it looks like they just got a phone in Salesforce. So it's completely seamless.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. So, how are we doing on time? Hey, we're doing great. All right. I got off. So this is important for you to know. What do you do when you have a lead? So we talked about how to identify a deal. If you go away with nothing else but how to identify a deal, that's a win. Because at Five9, we do not need you to know how to sell a deal. We don't need you to be contact center experts at all. Don't worry about that. Because what happens is we bring in our team to sell for you and with you. It's a very collaborative process. I want to be very clear. You're driving the bus, right? Or what's another? You're the quarterback, and you're just handing the ball off to us as your subject matter expert in contact center, and we're selling that deal with you and for you. So again, going back to the definition of a referral model, you're referring the deal to us. We're doing all the heavy lifting. We're doing the demo. We're providing everything, and you can be as involved in that deal or uninvolved as you choose to be. And sometimes with certain customers, you really want to micromanage that process. Other customers, you want to just throw over the fence and tell me when I get paid, right? So, first step, if you have something that looks and smells like it might be a deal, we have a link for TCG that you can click on and register that deal. That link looks like, hang on now, get out of this. Looks like this. This is where you'll go. You'll put in the information for your lead, what you know about them, and this is important, whatever notes you know, what you think their need is, anything that you can give us to go on that helps us. And then you put your information in there so that you can get tagged to that deal. Very important for commission purposes, right? So please get familiar with that.
Master dash agent or master dot agent?
Pardon me?
Master dash or dot agent?
It should be,
Dash agent.
did it say dash up there? Then that's what it is.
Took it down too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's go back to it. I just lost it. Okay, guys. Hold, please. Oh, I totally, oh, shoot. Hang on now. This is, yeah, I totally lost it. I got rid of it.
To register an opportunity.
First step is to register an opportunity. Let's go back here. My bad. Is this on, this is on video, isn't it? That's awesome. Just awesome. Can you cut and paste? A blooper? There you go. Can you change how I look? Because I could use a little work done. All right. Here we go. Yep. Master dash agent. Okay. That should pop right back up there. Now you're making me sweat. So this is it. And by the way, you don't have to scribble this down. I can send this all to you. So, and this is a hot link. First step is when you register that deal, you'll have one of our lead development reps call you and basically just vet it out for 2 minutes with you and say, okay, is this what you think it is? What's going on here? Let's make sure that, like you said, it looks and smells like a deal. When it is, we accept that lead and we assign it to the appropriate sales resource. The example with the 10-seat deal earlier, that goes in-house. 25 seats and below go to our corporate team inside in San Ramon, California. Anything bigger than that goes to our enterprise sales directors who are remote all in the field.
What does SUG look at? It's basically what-
SUG is an enterprise sales director, so 25 seats and above. SUG, let's use that example. SUG will call you, right? And he'll say, hey, what's the deal with this? What's going on? And what do you have in place and what are you thinking? Right? So you kind of have a quick collaboration meeting. Then your job, this is critical, your job then is to do an introduction to the customer. After you do that, you're done, if you want to be. That's as hard as it gets. So when I said the return on your effort is huge, the dollars for your effort on what you have to do here is just stupid on how much money you make. Because literally you say, if I can say yes to some of these qualifying criteria, those bullets that I just had up earlier, I may have a deal. Let me register that. Okay, you get a call from our sales guys. They say, yeah, I think you got a deal. Can we make an introduction to the customer? Absolutely. And then you can just sit back and take notes and learn on the fly if you'd like. That's it. He'll bring in, our sales resource will bring in their engineer to do the demos. We'll work with you throughout the sales process, the entire sales cycle. If, let's say, that customer goes dark for a little while, we may call you and say, hey, they're not answering the call, what's going on? You say, oh, they're on vacation, they're down in, wherever, and oh, okay. And that's really kind of how we work together. If you have LD in place that you don't want to touch, you let us know about that, stuff like that. But basically, we're doing all of the work for you. We're writing the deal on Five9 paper, and then as soon as that customer pays us, starts paying on a monthly basis, we pay TCG, who pays you? Pretty straightforward. But it's a pretty critical process. So the thing to remember is register early, register often. Because somebody in New Jersey might be looking at that same customer that you're looking at and trying to swoop in on you and register that deal before you, even if you had that deal for 10 years as a customer. So make sure that you identify those deals or potential deals. Say it again?
Is a registered deal protected?
A registered deal is protected.
For how long?
6 months. However, if you haven't set up the conversation, you haven't done your part. And then you and I have a conversation where we say, you registered it, but it's gone nowhere, and you really don't know anything about this deal, do you? Because I have this other guy who says he's owned the customer for 20 years, and they went to high school together, and they're probably a better partner on that deal. And then we say, let's release that deal. But that's very few and far between. The point is that a registered deal is protected.
Unless you went to high school.
Unless you went to high school with them. Okay, so based on what I've said today, what questions do you have about what is a deal with Five9, what is not a deal, how do I register it, how do I get started? What questions do you have? Crickets. Who has a deal in mind?
I do.
I saw 2 hands. So whoever has the better deal, based on what the group decides, gets the Amazon Echo.
Well, our partner does. But I want to ask.
But you we'll give you an opportunity to tell us about the deal. We'll let the group decide which deal is better, and whichever one is better, you can come up and you register it right online and show us how it's done. Sound like a plan?
Well, our partner's gonna get it regardless, so I'll tell you.
Okay, what do you got?
I have a 10-person call center that Lowe's gave this contract to one of.
This is the one you already registered. I'm sorry to interrupt. Oh, okay.
This is a new one.
Okay.
I haven't even talked. I'm gonna have a discovery call with them this week.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Right, so I'm about to register, it's not Lowe's, but it's a
Don't say the
contact
name.
center. So they've asked them to build a contact center for Lowe's for their shipping department.
Okay.
And they're gonna build a 10-person contact center somewhere, and I'm gonna do it for them. So this is a perfect solution to come to you with, because they're gonna need top-notch call center, skill-based routing, maybe or the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what, it's gonna be, I don't know the location yet.
Okay.
It's gonna be one of 3 cities. It's gonna be 10 to 15 dispatchers and people working all day long to send out furniture, appointments, remind them.
So it's outbound and inbound.
Yes, and they're gonna have
Okay.
drivers all over the place calling in and scheduling, and that's what I'm building.
Absolutely, yeah. It's inbound, it's outbound. You don't know the exact, are all the agents located in one place?
Yes, they're gonna put them all in one place.
Okay, they're using a CRM, I assume?
They have nothing now.
No CRM,
Building their circuit.
not even a homegrown? Oh, sweet, okay, so there's money for you there. We'll help make you sticky so you can sell them a CRM.
Okay.
What's their PBX?
Don't have anything yet.
More sticky, more money. Awesome,
So
that
do I
sounds like a
build
good
that
deal.
out with another IP solution and then also layer it with Five9?
Yes. So there's the beauty of working with a master agent like TCG, right? They have, or if you already don't have relationships with other vendors, you can put them together. And that happens with us all the time. We know that sometimes we're like one component of a 5-piece solution sale, right?
Right, right. So I'm the channel manager who's gonna quote that out for the partner. And I'll quote that out with an IP carrier, then I'll also quote that out with Five9.
Correct. Now, if it's Five9 will provide the LD if they need it for the agents. In fact, we'd prefer to, because quality of service, right? But if there's more to the LD than that, if it's not just contact center agents, you probably want to work with a separate carrier, because there's business users that would need all of that, I'm assuming.
How are you guys providing QoS though if you don't have any equipment installed on site?
It's all remote, the magic of the cloud.
Yeah, but how are you compressing that voice, putting QoS on that voice packet?
This is where I bring my engineer in, and he answers your question, because I don't know the technical, I can't tell you how we're doing it. I'm a sales guy.
I know, like, if it's like your toll-free number and your DID, then the path between that DID and toll-free number, sure, guys have control over, but if you guys, I'm just curious how you provide QoS if you don't have like an MPLS connection between your cloud and customer prem and whatnot. And if you don't know,
So how are we providing QoS if we don't have the connection?
if you don't have anything on site, you're just in the cloud, so there's no QoS from the customer's location to the cloud.
Okay, so oftentimes we'll provide the LD. That's the preferred scenario, right? And so we have control over that because we know what it's connected, what data centers are being connected in, right? And we see the traffic in our NOC, right?
Is it your switch, LD switch, or is it somebody else's?
Yes and yes, depending on the situation, right? So oftentimes you'll have a customer who might have their own, right? And they say, I don't want to replace it. And so we'll come and we'll say, okay, we'll do a connect at the data center. We'll do a cross connect, right? We'll RESTborg that connection, and then we'll become the responsible party for what you got going on there. Or if we're not doing that, wherever we lose exposure to that, that's where we're losing that quality of service. So that's why we like to own that.
But to David's point, it's going to be the long distance switch if you're talking about a long distance carrier and a long distance call. It's going to be the quality of the internet service to the customer.
Right, exactly.
QoS somewhere that you're actually guaranteeing and providing.
Well, we're controlling what we're controlling, right? And so if we're not in control of what's going on the internet, we don't have any quality
I think we
there.
just don't want people in here thinking that you're going to provide some magical QoS without
No.
and not considering that there's an internet connection involved in a long distance.
Yeah, so that's actually a very good point. So a lot of times we'll be with customers and we'll say, okay, option A, you want to go over the open internet? You can, but here's kind of what you're going to get. And we all kind of look each other in the eye, partner, customer, vendor, and say, this is what we expect. Option B, maybe we want a little bit better. Let's talk about MPLS, right? Does it make sense? Do you have enough agents to warrant that? What do you want to do?
What is that, an
And so-
MPLS node into your data centers?
Mm-hmm.
To the customer prem.
Yeah. So there are all kinds of variables, and again, that's where I bring in the people who are a lot smarter than me and better looking than me, right? And people who are our subject matter experts on connectivity, and they have that conversation at a much higher level than we're having today.
Well, looks aside, you're gonna get a long distance switch somewhere if it's a long distance call that you select or that you select with your company, because we're not selecting that, right?
Well, yes, but you're influencing that because it's a partnership.
But you're gonna try to put the best call quality out there.
Absolutely,
Because-
every time.
But that's what you're gonna do, and that's where it kind of stops.
Yeah, so if the customer says, I want to go over the open internet, we kind of grit our teeth and go, okay, why? What are you trying to accomplish? You know, let's talk about your use case. Maybe you could get better quality going this other route. But if that's what they want, then we say, okay, here's the expectations on quality.
Yeah.
And we can, like I said, control what we can control.
So here's the thing, if you're putting out a bad call somehow, and this is a call center, and they have enough problems with it, they're gonna toss you out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you'll see a lot of, you saw on the competitor slide earlier, there are other companies out there, we saw 8x8 earlier, for example, right, who there are a lot of companies out there who have more basic contact center functionality, that maybe it's more important for the customer to have better quality of service with their PBX environment, right, and just kind of rudimentary contact center functionality, because that's not a major part of their business. But then there are other customers who need extremely high quality, right, and that contact center is driving a ton of revenue for their business. And that's where they're bringing us in, and they're saying, pardon me?
That's part of the interview. Huh?
Absolutely, all part of discovery, absolutely.
Do you have any
Gentleman
pay,
has a situation.
do you have any pay-per-click integration? Like, can you replace a call rail?
I don't know what that is.
Like, customers in Walmart searching for something, call rail pulls 10 numbers and basically shifts that one of those random numbers to the person that's shopping in Walmart. They
Oh, I
see
see.
They see the Walmart number, and then when they call into the contact center agent knows that they're shopping in Walmart in Bismarck, you know, North Dakota, if that's even the city in Bismarck.
Yeah, that's, so in a case like that, they do their business a lot better than we do. We wouldn't ever try to replace them, but we would try and integrate, right? And so there's a contact center component there which we would certainly own.
Okay.
So the call would come to us. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's coming from my house
Right.
or where. So
Okay.
I had a deal that I worked on last year as well that had a whole call aggregator, call control company. Went to that company first and then went to us.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was a mortgage company
So you
kind of
need-
situation.
Through an API,
Yeah.
you'll call rail to Five9,
Yeah,
to Salesforce.
as long as they're on web, can consume web, and so do we.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm totally disrespecting you, but not asking about your deal. What do you got? So far, it sounds awesome.
It's one of the largest, one of your top 4 insurance providers.
Okay, we do great in that space.
Back and forth, not one of the ones that you listed there. She just recently sent me an email asking, can we audit all of their calls via the conference?
Yeah, it depends on what she means by audit, but I'm assuming she wants to see the call duration, like length, dropped calls.
Follow back up with her. I'm like,
That sounds like a deal.
Sounds like a big deal to me.
Looks like a deal, smells like a deal, quacks like a deal. Yeah,
So I think something you and I need to talk about.
yeah, let's
I
talk.
gotta respond to her and get back with her, kind of what we can and cannot do.
The answer initially is yes. Let's dig into a little bit more discovery.
Yeah.
We want to find out what they have in their environment today, what they're trying to accomplish beyond just audit calls. What does that mean to them, right? Do they have existing technologies in place that they're using to do that and trying to replace it, or is this kind of some?
Again, it's one of the top 4.
Okay, let's talk. Do you know about how many seats, agents? Okay, that sounds like a good deal.
I'm just saying.
So do the math in your head. Do the math in your head. Okay. What's 1,000 times 185? Or just say 190, because it's, 175. Be conservative. What's 1,000 times 175? Come on now. That's just the software revenue. So my point is it worth it to explore a little deeper, right? So yeah, there are deals, folks, there are deals you're not thinking about. I'll send this out. Take a look at those bullet points on how to identify a deal. That's gold. I've seen people print that out and put that on their wall. Because when you're doing your normal course of business and you're selling some circuits, you're doing something, you look and you go, oh yeah, by the way, I remember you doing this and this. Have you thought about this? Or tell me about your environment. And then all of a sudden you're calling me and you're saying, I think we might have something. And for 5 minutes of doing that, and then 10 minutes of discovery, and then another hour on a demo, you're making multiple thousands a month, year over year. You see where I'm going with that? So it's in your best interest.